Alright, this next video is going to be about my personal view on faith. A lot of people have tried to mislabel me as something that I'm not, because I will come to the defense of people who might not hold the same religious beliefs as them. And my whole point is that you cannot judge someone for their religious belief. You can't blanket a whole group of people for their religious belief. The First Amendment protects the right of every citizen to practice their religious beliefs. Now, granted, that's as long as they don't infringe on somebody else's rights. But the average person isn't doing that. And I think what people are getting confused with is that there are extremist groups, and there's extremist groups in every religious category that believe that the only answer is to dominate people with their religion, whether that's by force or by marketing technique or whatever. It doesn't matter. But I'm not any of the above. What I am, if you want to get technical, is I am an agnostic that believes that there is a creative force in the universe. And what do I mean by agnostic? I don't know. That's basically, I do not know. I don't have enough information. With the five senses that we have, we cannot prove or disprove exactly what the force is that's behind all life in the universe. We just can't do it. We can theorize. We can believe what we want, but when you get right down to it, they're only theories. And we step into dangerous ground when we start to try to mandate that people adhere to one belief system or another. Because belief systems are nothing more than symbols. They're symbols of a set of values in an attempt to explain what you can't explain. They're far different. Religion is far different from spirituality. Spirituality is something that recognizes that everything is interconnected, that there are spiritual forces in the known world and in the universe, and that these spiritual forces can affect a person. I don't like to use labels because labels attempt to give a definition of something that we can't define. So I try to steer clear of labels because labels assume too much. There are certain phenomena that have been given certain titles and labels, and they really are inadequate. So I hesitate to use labels. However, I am critical of religions, and the reason why is because historically religion has been a tool of oppression. And I'm equally critical of just about every religion, with the exception of maybe a couple of them. But when you get right down to it, if you look at most religions, there's a core set of values and a core philosophy in most religions that pretty much line up together. You know, people value family. They value goodness. They value shows of demonstration of kindness. You know, there's just a lot of core values and principles that are the same throughout many religions. So I rather would focus on the philosophies of them that bind everybody together. Because when you get right down to it, the average person is going to adhere to those philosophies and core values, regardless of what faith they choose. I also want to make a point, because a lot of people, especially here in America, assume that this country was found on Christian values. And while it may be true that the Anglican Church and other churches were the dominant religious movements in white American culture, or European or other ethnic groups that moved into the United States due to Europeans moving here, it wasn't something that the government mandated. I mean, it's right in the First Amendment. Matter of fact, a lot of the founding fathers of the colonies, the ones who drafted the Constitution, were not religious. They were deists. They believed that there was a God. But especially people like Benjamin Franklin, they did not assign a specific doctrine or title to the creator, the architect of the universe, whatever you want to call it. So they abstained from participating in religious ceremony, and I think they had very valid spiritual outlook, because they recognized that in order to have a free society, you have to respect people's symbolic views of spirituality. So I think that religion is not something that should be pushed on people. It's not a deciding factor when you are looking at an individual with regards to their value. And I've been very outspoken about it, because a lot of people love to bash Jewish people. They love to bash Muslims. Then you've got other groups bashing Christians because of the actions of a few, or the fact that their chosen religion at one time or another, or even currently, is being used as a tool of oppression. Remember, I said historically religions are tools of oppression. We can look at it in history. And I know a lot of people are going to be upset about this, but I think it needs to be said. Religions, well, let's start with, this is not the earliest known religion, but one that definitely has an effect on today's world events is Judaism. Now, if you were to believe the Bible account of Judaism, it would pretend that Judaism has been around since the beginning of mankind and that it is the only religion. Well, personally, I have a problem with that, because the majority of people today, their definition is that God is good, God is just, God is kind. However, the picture that we get in the Old Testament is that God was a bloodthirsty tyrant, and not only condoned but encouraged his followers to commit genocide and murder in his name. Now, personally, I don't ascribe to that as being okay. I just don't. You know, they say, well, the society that they founded, kind of, we borrow a lot of their ideas as far as the Constitution goes, and as far as rule of law goes. That may be true, but the means doesn't justify the end. And I mean, the ends doesn't justify the means, is what I'm trying to say. In order for them to solidify their nation around common principles and core values, they first had to unify everyone under a chosen deity. And I say chosen because if you do the research, you'll find out that the God that they call Yahweh was actually a Canaanite god before that. And there have been inscriptions found. The site where Moses was believed to have led the Israelites past the Sinai Peninsula, Saudi Arabian government has them under restriction. You can't go there. You can't take pictures. You can't do anything. But of the pictures they do have, they have clear representation of Yahweh and his Asherah. They also have a shard of pottery that says the same thing. And Yahweh and Asherah are both Canaanite gods. That's odd. So, what I'm saying is that even back then, tyrants controlled religion. And in the name of a deity, they justified mass murder and even killed their own prophets for speaking against the state. And this is not a religion that I would want to believe in. So you got to be careful what you believe in. Now, I'm equally as harsh on Christians because regardless of what people believe, I believe that Jesus was a philosopher, a master psychiatrist. He lived to teach people. Jesus was the sheepdog's model. And why do I say that? Is because he empowered people. He taught them how to live. Now, you'll hear theologians spouting doctrines saying that he was the ultimate sacrifice and focus on his death. And I see that for what it is. You can call it what you want, but I'm going to call it exactly what it is. It's a celebration of murder. Jesus was against the status quo. And not in an overt way. You know, it wasn't like he was trying to overthrow the government. He did chastise them verbally when they needed it. The Sanhedrin were the first ones to create the doctrine of hell so they could line their pockets every time they had their synagogue or temple or whatever. So, you know, and we all know that Jesus was mad about that. But he was a thorn in their side and they had to get rid of him, so they killed him. And later on, these people, and it's always funny because it turns out to be the same every time. People that want power and control of the money are always the ones behind murdering prophets and people who are trying to teach other people how to live better. So yeah, Christianity has been infiltrated. And they have made it appear as though it's a good thing that Jesus was killed. You know, the psychology is right there. You know, it's to create hero worship. And Constantine knew what he was doing when he guided the doctrines of the bishops during the Council of Nicaea and later on. And he recognized the power of a central religion, a state religion. And so you have to be careful, and that's why I don't adhere to Christianity either, is because they have basically fallen for the lie that celebrating murder is okay. As far as Islam goes, that's a whole nother ball game. But basically, where I fault that is that first of all, to me it appears that Muhammad was brainwashed, either by a very proficient Catholic mind control artist or by another being, because he could not control what he was saying. And as far as I'm concerned, any real creator is not going to violate free will. So, you know, that's basically part one of this video series. And I'm going to have to continue in a part two.